Tom was tired. His eyes were dry. His back hurt. It was Friday night, but he was still in the office. The lights above him were cold and white. Outside the windows, the sky was already dark. Most of his co-workers had gone home. Tom was alone at his desk, typing slowly. This week had been hard. Meetings, emails, reports. Every day he ate lunch at his desk. Every night he left the office after sunset. He didn't even remember the last time he laughed. At 7:45 p.m., Tom looked at his phone. There was a message from his mother. She had sent a photo of a bowl of hot soup, and below it, just one short line. "Will you come this weekend?" Tom stared at the screen. He didn't reply. He didn't know what to say. He had promised to visit her. She lived 2 hours away by train. They hadn't seen each other for 3 months. But now he felt so tired. He wanted to sleep all weekend. He wanted to turn off his phone and disappear. He stood up and walked to the elevator. The building was quiet. Only the sound of the elevator doors opening and closing. Outside, the wind was cold. Tom pulled his coat tighter. He looked up at the sky. No stars, just grey clouds. When he reached home, he dropped his bag on the floor. He didn't turn on the lights. He just sat on the couch and stared into the dark. He whispered to himself, "Maybe next time." But deep inside, something felt wrong. A quiet sadness sat beside him. He was not just tired from work. He was tired from missing something important. He just didn't know it yet. The next morning, Tom woke up late. The sky outside was already bright. He sat on the bed for a moment. The room was silent, only the sound of cars far away. He checked his phone. There were 3 missed calls from Mom, and 1 voice message. He didn't open it, not yet. He stood up, made some coffee, and sat by the window. The coffee was bitter. His heart felt the same. He looked outside. People were walking with shopping bags. Children were laughing. A man was walking his dog. It was Saturday. For others, it was a day to rest. For Tom, it was just another long, empty day. He picked up his phone. He pressed play. His mother's voice was soft. "Hi, Tom. I just wanted to ask, are you still coming today? I made your favorite soup, the one with carrots and ginger. It's okay if you're busy. I understand. Just take care of yourself, okay?" Then the message ended. Tom sat still. He listened again. The same voice, the same warmth. And something else. A small silence at the end, like someone waiting, but not expecting. He looked around his apartment. There was nothing on the table, no plans, no smile, just quiet. He thought about calling her back, but he didn't. Instead, he typed a short message. "Hi, Mom. Sorry I missed your call. Maybe next weekend." He stared at the words for a long time. Then he pressed send. He put the phone down, and for some reason his chest felt heavy. He told himself, she understands. But deep inside, he wasn't sure. Tom woke up early on Sunday. He didn't plan to. His body was tired, but his mind was awake. He lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. The morning light came through the window. It painted soft lines on the floor. He thought about the soup. He thought about his mother's voice. He thought about the silence after her message. The room felt cold, even with the sun. Something inside him began to move. It was small, like a whisper, but it was strong. He got out of bed. He didn't brush his hair. He didn't check his email. He just packed a small bag and left. Outside, the sky was clear. The city was quiet. He walked fast, as if afraid to change his mind. At the train station, he bought a ticket. He sat by the window. The train began to move. The buildings passed by quickly, then trees, then fields, then a small town. 2 hours later, he was there. Tom walked up the old road to his mother's house. The house was small, but the garden was full of green. He knocked on the door once, then again. His mother opened the door. She looked surprised. For a second, she said nothing. Then her face broke into a smile. "Tom," she said, "you came." Tom felt his throat tighten. He nodded and smiled, just a small smile, but it felt big inside. She pulled him into a hug, the kind of hug that says everything without words, warm, long, real. Inside the house, the soup was still warm. It smelled like carrots, ginger, and home. Tom sat at the table. His mother placed the bowl in front of him. She didn't ask why he came. She didn't ask why he didn't reply. She just said, "Eat while it's hot." So he did. And in that moment, Tom knew he had made the right choice. Tom stayed the night at his mother's house. It was the first time in months. The bed was small, but soft. The air smelled like old wood and clean sheets. Outside, crickets sang softly in the dark. Tom fell asleep faster than he had in weeks. The next morning, he woke to the smell of toast. He walked into the kitchen. His mother was already there, wearing a blue sweater. She smiled. She handed him a plate. No words, just kindness. They ate breakfast together in quiet. No phone, no rush. Only the sound of birds outside and the ticking clock. After breakfast, his mother went to the garden. Tom stayed inside. He walked around the small living room. He looked at the old family photos on the wall. There was one of him at age 10, holding a cat, one of his parents on their wedding day, and one photo frame with no picture inside. He opened a drawer looking for an old pen, but instead he found an envelope. His name was written on it. The handwriting was familiar. It was his father's. Tom froze. His father had passed away 2 years ago. He opened the envelope slowly. Inside was a letter. "Dear Tom," it began. "If you are reading this, then I'm not around anymore. But I want you to remember something. Work is important. Yes. But don't let it eat your time. Time is the only thing we never get back. Visit your mom often. She misses you more than she says. And when you feel tired, don't hide. Come home, rest. You are never alone. Love, Dad." Tom didn't move. He just stood there holding the paper. His hands were shaking. He sat down on the floor, letter in hand. His eyes filled with tears. Quiet tears. The kind that don't make a sound but say everything. His mother walked in. She saw the letter. She didn't say anything. She just sat beside him. She put her hand on his. And they stayed like that, together. No words, no need. Tom left his mother's house on Monday morning. The sun was soft. The trees outside were full of green. Spring was coming. His mother packed him a small lunch. She placed it in his hand without saying much. Just a smile, just a hug. "Come back soon," she said. Tom nodded. This time he meant it. On the train he looked out the window, the same trees, the same towns. But something inside him was different. He opened his phone. There were emails waiting, meetings, deadlines, messages from co-workers. He closed the app. For the first time he didn't feel guilty. He just wanted to sit with the quiet. Back in the city, everything moved fast. People ran, cars beeped, buildings stretched into the sky. But Tom walked slowly. His steps were calm. His heart was quiet. At work, his boss asked, "Ready for the big meeting?" Tom smiled. He nodded. But after the meeting, he did something new. He opened his calendar. He cleared his weekend. Then he sent a message to his mom. "Coming next weekend. Let's cook together." That night he made soup for himself. Carrots, ginger, a little salt. He sat at the table, alone. But he didn't feel lonely. He picked up his father's letter again. He read it one more time. Then he folded it and placed it in his wallet. He kept it close, just like the lesson. That weekend didn't fix everything. Work was still hard. The city was still loud. But something had changed. Quietly. Tom had come home, not just to a place, but to his own heart.